Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the Wrestle Plug. I am, of course, your host and owner, and the most unpopular host in all of UK podcasting, Aeron. Next, it's time to talk about WWE Raw. We had a cracking little WWE Raw tonight. I'm really digging WWE at the moment. I've got to say, I'm somebody who enjoys all the wrestling, not just what people want to like. It's not about brand loyalty, it's all about the good wrestles. Show opened very nicely with Seth Rollins. Gotta say, he has really come around to me with this Messiah gimmick. When it first kicked off, I thought, bit of a poor man CM Punk straight edge savior kind of thing, but it's starting to come around. It really is, and it's starting to feel like his own. And I think having Buddy there a little bit more regularly, Buddy, Murphy, whatever the fuck they want to call it, that's a terrible name. Sort out his name for fuck's sake. Just call him the Disciple, that's better than Murphy. And of course Austin Theory, who's joined him as well, who will no doubt be called Theory sooner rather than later, knowing WWE. A great promo to start a show, this kind of false, disgusting mentality. I really like it. It really works for him. It makes him entertaining. He's obviously a shitbag who doesn't truly believe what he says, or he's delusional, and maybe he does believe what he says, but he's out there a little bit, and I think he's actually the best heel on Raw at the moment, at least for my money. Very closely followed by Zelina Vega and the gang. Although I feel like Zelina offers overall a little bit more to the product, which is what I'm going to talk about soon. But I liked it. Really good promo. Aleister Black comes down to defend the honour of Rey Mysterio. And they had a great match as well. A little bit surprised with the amount of commercial breaks. I think there was like 3 commercial breaks during this match. That's just down to the match having a decent amount of length. If you're going to have long competitive matches on a show like this, especially a 3-hour Raw, which you kind of have to. You can't just have 2 3-minute throwaway matches all the time like they used to, because it just makes the programme miserably droll. But yeah, obviously if you're going to have a match of this length, then you're going to have to tolerate the fact that there are commercial breaks. It's just part of business, part of making money. That's how TV works nowadays. And God, I see Americans whinging of all people, and I think, dude, you have more commercials literally per 5 minutes than any other TV network on earth. Settle your shit down. But I thought it was great, very competitive, and also Aleister Black winning is fucking awesome. It doesn't really affect Seth Rollins that he loses this match. He's obviously embroiled in this very strange rivalry with Rey Mysterio. It's almost like they don't really know what to do with him right now. They kind of blew their load a little bit too quickly with the Drew McIntyre thing. So obviously with him being out of the way, not really much he can do from that perspective, so he's got to kind of find something else to dig into. But what it is doing is it's elevating Aleister Black as well. And I love that, because I feel like Aleister Black is more than worthy of a big push at this point. I was worried that he'd have a bit of a ceiling, because his promos are good, but they're not world class. He doesn't. I don't feel like Aleister Black sets himself aside as one of the best promo guys just yet, but he's getting there, and his character's starting to feel fleshed out. And the thing that really stood out to me about all of this opening of Raw, this sort of first 40 minutes or so of Raw, was the interactions at the end of the match. I loved them between Seth Rollins and Aleister Black, obviously taking out Humberto Carrillo, who was at ringside trying to support Aleister Black, the 3-on-2, the numbers game, which is classic Rollins and the gang. And I really enjoyed the way that he was screaming at him, the way they were emoting towards each other. It was very evident of, here's the shithouse, here's the nasty bad guy, and he's taking out his friend in front of him, and he's screaming at him, you wait your turn, while he's screaming that he's a coward. I thought the acting was really good. I really did. Sometimes the acting can be very hammy and over the top in all of wrestling, not just WWE. This was really on point. It felt a little bit more gritty, a little bit more real, and it certainly banged with me. Really enjoyed this. Thought it was a cracking opening segment to what was, to be honest, a very strong Raw. There was an awful lot of filler nonsense after this until we got to the United States title stuff, although some of it wasn't too bad. A lot of recaps and people talking about stuff and build-ups to matches. Don't really care what Shawn Michaels has to say about the match. Yeah, I get it. He's Shawn Michaels. He's one of the greatest of all time. Nobody's denying that, but he just looks like a dishevelled Santa Claus at this point. It's like, give Shawn a rest, man. Let him just relax and enjoy his faux semi-retirement, whatever it may be. Or just bring him out of retirement. Give me what I want, as Batista would say, which is a match against AJ Styles, and then put him to bed, finally, to rest, and let's leave it there. MVP owning Lana was very amusing. I love the segment between Zelina Vega and Charlie Caruso, and of course Angel Garza, the Lothario. It's so funny. I really like it. I think it's very amusing. I love the way Charlie looks at him. Like, I mean, come on, man. Who doesn't want a woman who looks at you the way Charlie looks at Angel Garza? Wow. That's a look of sheer passion and desire. I love it. It's really good, actually. Those two play it quite well. And I love Zelina Vega, who's... I'm not sure if she's jealous or just being the ultimate cockblocker. You know, he gives her a rose and then Zelina Vega's like, oh, one moment please. Just grabs the rose and shreds it and gives her the stem. She's like, oh, cry about it. I thought it was great. Thought it was money. Absolute money. Love the idea of an open challenge for the United States title again. I think the US title, until it got on Andrade, it was very much maligned and bouncing around and not really being used properly, not being taken seriously. Now, a hot take, controversial opinion, I'm not a big fan of Apollo Crews as a character. As a wrestler, he's fine, but, he hasn't got much charisma at all. He's very boring, a bit like Humberto Carrillo. He's part of that spine of guys who are great workers. They're really useful. They have great matches, but are they stars? Do they have star power? Not for me. Not my cup of tea, to be honest. That's not to say that Apollo Crews isn't very talented as a wrestler. He's just certainly not my cup of tea, and I think he's a very boring promo. He offers Kevin Owens an opportunity at the United States title. Kevin Owens grabs the mic, shows him basically how you're supposed to talk on the mic and stuff, which I think is great. And then they have a small match, which was going well until it's interrupted by our resident Latin quarter. Of course, Zelina's charges. Angel and Andrade hit the ring, and then we get the Teddy Long effect. Holla holla, tag team match player, and off we go with the tag team match. And that was good as well, to be fair. One thing I love about this is, even if you're not a huge fan of someone like an Apollo Crews like I am, there's no doubting the fact they're all immensely talented in terms of ring hands. And I really like Angel Garza. He's really grown on me a lot, rapidly. I think Humberto Carrillo, another guy, great athlete, very minimal charisma, which is why he tends to find himself aligned with a lot of people who can talk a lot better or have much brighter stars around them, like Rey Mysterio and Aleister Black. For me, I love the combination still of Andrade and Garza as part of Zelina Vega's charges. I feel like they've kind of let that faction down a little bit. They sort of teased the idea of them being quite dominant, and then it was wah-wah and sort of fell by the wayside, which is a bit disappointing. Zelina Vega was wonderful once again. I run out of superlatives to describe how special and how good she is at her job. She's wonderful, amazing on the mic. She looks incredible. Her facial expressions, her psychology, her acting, the way she helps get her clients over, the way that everybody around her just is elevated and looks better because of the talent and the joy that she brings. I love it. I think it's wonderful. And yeah, it was a good match, and another one to put Apollo Crews over. Glad that Apollo Crews got the win because, and the pin, should I say, because he needs that probably a lot more than others. But I thought it was good. I thought it was a really good match. I enjoyed it, and it entertained me. Also really liked the quick backstage segment with Asuka as well, saying that nobody bows down to the Empress. The Empress bows down to nobody, excuse me. I love that. I think Asuka is on fire. I've got to say, other than Apollo Crews, who isn't really my cup of tea, all the champions right now in the company are absolutely spot on. Now, I'm curious what people thought of the next segment, because some of these have been really good and some of these haven't hit as well as I would have hoped. Street Profits, Viking Raiders in this friendly competition of sorts. This week it was bowling. They've played golf, they've had axe throwing, they've had basketball. Now they're having a go at 10-pin bowling. This is where Warbeard Hansen, as I know him, comes out and really shows off how amusing he can be. It's kind of nice to see the Viking Raiders having a bit of fun, and I think the Street Profits are great fun. Really funny. I love Montez Ford. I still think he's a huge star. I love this comedy stuff. At the same time, I would like to see a bit more seriousness once it's done, I don't want this to go on forever, but they're now 2 for 2 because the Viking Raiders pull out the win and get the cheeky W right at the end with a beard assisted strike. I like this segment. I know it's not for everyone. It's not everyone's cup of tea. I thought it was quite funny. I particularly liked the fact he was flirting with the owner of the bowling alley, and she was just like, "You're lucky I'm not going to throw you out because you're cute." Like, pulls his beard, and she looks at Ro, and she's like, "You? Not so much." Which is quite amusing because obviously he's the married one. So I like that. I thought it was quite wholesome, quite funny, and quite entertaining. I think the banter between the two teams is good. They were clearly having a good time, bringing out the goat's milk. Dawkins is just like, spit takes all over the floor, bringing out the smoke machine, and there's that really creepy looking attendant who's like, "Yo, fam, I want the smoke." And it just presses a button and looks terrified. It worked for me. I thought it was fun. I thought it was entertaining. I know that there's a divide. People don't like this bollocks, this, heavily entertained format of wrestling. And even I sometimes will go in on it if I think it's a little bit trashy. But this worked for me. It did. It banged for me. I loved this. I thought it was good. It did entertain me. It was amusing. And it was nice to see them a little bit more humanised, a little bit more fun times. And I love how Rose just like slapping Montez Ford on the chest, going, I told you. So it's 2 for 2. I'm very curious to see what these boys are going to do next. I also dread it slightly, but hey, if it's going to be as entertaining as this every week, I can get with it. I really can. This has got a little bit of a Fashion Files vibe to me, Just complete nonsense, taking away all the seriousness, but to be honest, with the rough times that a lot of people are having, the wrestling business in particular has taken quite a few hits lately. We could do with a bit of fun, couldn't we? We could do with a smile. So I'm going to stray to the positive side of this and say, do you know what? It was fun. It entertained me. I wasn't entertained by the Iconics versus Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss. It's not a case of I dislike anyone in this rivalry, but the tone of it doesn't sit well with me. So the Iconics came back. They immediately lost their tag team title shot. Now they're getting more. I don't understand the logic behind it. They lost, so tough shit, get to the back of the line. Nah, fuck it. And this is what happens when you have no credible tag teams, especially now that the Kabuki Warriors are kind of separate. It is what it is, man. I hated the little segment right beforehand when they were arguing with each other. Like, these are legitimate women's wrestlers. This isn't the Diva era. And I know that the Iconics play a kind of diva-ish character, but they're credible, at least enough. And they're sort of like, Nikki Cross and Billie Kay trying to slap each other. Get off. It's like, what the fuck is that? It makes women, for my money, look trash. I don't know if any women listening had a different viewpoint. I didn't like it. I thought it looked trash, and the match wasn't particularly great. I don't think Billie Kay and Peyton Royce are world-class workers by any means. Good enough, competent, more than enough. I think Peyton Royce has always been slightly better for my money. That being said, they certainly have improved in their time away. And Billie Kay getting the win is fine, but I just thought the match was a bit meh for me. Wasn't really feeling that segment. Nia Jax and Kairi Sane was also a thing. I wasn't overly hot on this either. It was fine. It wasn't bad. My problem stems from the fact that Kairi Sane is way too good to be jobbed out like this all the time. I swear every week or every other week, Nia Jax is beating the shit out of Kairi Sane. Now, to be fair, Kairi Sane got a fair amount of offense in on this match, and she looked quite good until Nia Jax literally grabbed her, smacked her head against the ring apron, smashed her head into the ring steps, and then gave her a leg drop and pinned her, just like that. Now, that's impactful in the sense of it shows how quickly Nia Jax can turn the tide and crush you, but there's an army of women in this division. Now, I get it. People are immediately going to say, yeah, well, Kairi Sane's with Asuka, so of course she's going to beat her up. Yeah, but not like 3 or 4 times in like 5 or 6 weeks. It just seems fucking pointless. I swear they're wrestling each other every other week, and the outcome's always the same. What's the point? It doesn't really, for me, serve much to this rivalry. Like, have more involvement. Have Asuka coming down to ringside to watch Nia Jax batter somebody else, and then have them square up. Like, there are so many enhancement talents and developmental talents. Fucking, there's a shit ton of them ringside, for fuck's sake. Use one of those. I don't see why Kairi Sane, who legitimately could be one of the biggest stars in this division, is being fed to Nia Jax just to kind of hype her up a little bit so she can ultimately, most likely, lose at Backlash. It doesn't work for me. It just didn't sit that great with me. I didn't think it was that good, if I'm being honest. That's just my opinion. Another opinion I also have, because they've been hyping it up, the greatest wrestling match ever. whose idea is this? So it's time for a rant, because I haven't really spoken on this yet, and I might do a separate YouTube video just because it pisses me off that much. But how insulting to a wrestling fan and the overall business that you put this fucking bullshit slogan on what should be an excellent match. Orton versus Edge is a great rivalry. It's kind of been done in reverse, which is a shame, but nonetheless, I'm still excited to watch that match. And it will be a fantastic match, I have no doubt about it. One of the better matches of the night, and probably, you know, I'm one of those people who actually thought the WrestleMania match was great. I know a lot of people didn't like it, said it was boring and too long. Each to their own. I thought it was fantastic, personally, and I'm sure that this match will be good too, but the greatest wrestling match ever? Pull the other one, mate. I'm pretty sure we're getting Daniel Bryan versus AJ Styles, aren't we? Fuck off. Who in their right mind thought this was a good idea? And not only that, wow, putting that Greatest Showman shit music on, you know what? This might trigger a load of people. I think that music's fucking garbage. I do. And especially in the context of wrestling. Come on. This is wrestling. This is a physical, violent environment, and you're putting, it's the greatest. What the fuck is that trash? What is that doing on a wrestling broadcast? Hey, I haven't seen The Greatest Showman. I'm sure it's a wonderful film, but it's got no fucking context to wrestling. And this is not going to be the greatest wrestling match ever. Not only that, you're setting up these guys to fail. If you're Randy Orton and Edge, you're sitting there thinking, Jesus Christ, like, we can go for it, but how are we supposed to fucking make this match build to that hype? You've put an enormous amount. If this is Vince McMahon's idea, he needs a fucking cock slap. What the fuck is this? The greatest wrestling match ever? No, it isn't. You should have just said this could be one of the greatest collisions ever or whatever. That's fine. But to engage in that level of hyperbole and that obnoxious kind of statement, that pisses fans off. That pisses off, you know, not only that, I'm sorry, casuals aren't going to tune in for that. Casuals aren't going to see that and buy into that. They're just not. Because there's no credibility to that statement. It's a guy who wrestles very smoothly, but ultimately is very boring in Randy Orton, very monotone guy in a lot of ways, although he's done some amazing work, has to be said, with Edge, particularly in his heel turn, which I've really enjoyed, but he is not an exciting smash mouth wrestler for the most part. And it's Edge, who hasn't wrestled a proper wrestling match in almost 10 years. I don't know what you think you're up to. I think it's a terrible, terrible choice of words. And I know people say, oh, it's just a catchphrase. Yeah, but you're putting it on your marquee. You're putting it on posters. You're putting it everywhere for everyone to see. What you're essentially doing is falsely advertising something. It won't even be the best match of the night. Not even close. I'm sorry, especially if Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles ends up on this show. And I've got no reason. I think Drew and Bobby Lashley will have a better match, personally. I really do. I don't understand what the fuck they think they're doing. I really don't. I think it's asinine at best. As a quick aside, I have to mention the fact I actually really loved the Rey Mysterio promo, and particularly Dominic's little bit at the end when he said eye for an eye, and you're a fan of scripture. Very curious to see where that's going. I didn't think at first that a rivalry between these two would be really good, but if it's going to lead to Dominic getting involved and finally getting his break, we know he's been training as a wrestler, I'm all for it. I liked it. I really did like it. Charlotte versus Asuka is, for my money, one of the greatest all-time women's matches, especially in WWE history at least. WrestleMania 34, they had a remarkable contest, one of the best matches of that WrestleMania by some margin. I fucking despair hearing Charlotte Flair haters over and over. It's such a boring opinion. It's so fucking boring. Oh, she's only where she is because of her second name. She didn't even want to be a wrestler at first. You know, just get your fucking facts right instead of talking garbage. And also, you do realise that she's one of the best wrestlers, women's wrestlers, in the world. Like, she is star quality. The reason she constantly gets pushed is because she's better on the mic than most people. She's better in the ring than most people. I don't think she's the best in-ring worker. I think Asuka is. I think Asuka, personally, is the best all-round women's talent. I really do. That's not to say there aren't some amazing ones running around. There's a plethora of great talents. There really is in that women's division. And I feel like Asuka and Charlotte are right at the top of that. So I've got no problem watching them wrestle. And surprise, they had match of the night by some margin. It wasn't even close. It was fucking phenomenal, this match. It was brilliant. And that's despite the fact that it ended with shenanigans. How about Nia Jax coming down looking like Asuka? I really liked it. I thought she looked kind of sneaky hot as well. Now, Asuka apparently injured Kairi Sane with that steps bump, and people are once again hopping on the cancel culture bandwagon. I'm not going to go into a big rant about it, but I will say one thing. I fucking detest cancel culture. Fuck cancel culture, and fuck people who think it's cool to just spend their time on social media trying to cancel someone just because they don't do something that works for them. No, fuck you. Nia Jax is a relatively good person from what I can tell. There's no reason to suggest she isn't. She's injured a couple of wrestlers. Wrestlers have been injured while being in a match with her as well. Boo fucking who? Wrestling hurts. It's not a ballet. Loads of people get injured all the time, consistently. Just because you don't see it as much, because it may happen in a training facility or it may happen off camera, doesn't mean it doesn't happen to other people as well. And the fact that people want to assume that Nia Jax is like the only person who injures people, it's a bit of a joke. It really is. And a lot of that stems from her smacking Becky Lynch. And the ironic thing is, yeah, it was a fucking shoot strike and, you know, it messed up Becky Lynch, something wrong, but ironically enough, it's kind of what catapulted Becky Lynch into the stratosphere and made her as big as she is today. She really used that momentum and that imagery to catapult her career. So it swings and roundabouts, and I'm so fucking bored of hearing people shit on Nia Jax. Get over it. If you don't like violence or aggression or any kind of, what the fuck are you watching wrestling for? Wrestling hurts, I've been in there. It fucking hurts. And, injuries are a fact of life. They happen a lot in wrestling, and a lot of the time it's by accident. Nia Jax is not intentionally going out there trying to hurt people, and the fact that people think she is fucking ridiculous. That's all I've got to say on it. But yeah, I liked it. Thought the match was amazing. Not as hot in the ending, but that's the idea. The idea is that the heel ruined it for us. That's fine. Whatever. It is what it is. Count out victory. And also, you want to keep both women strong, let's be honest. Charlotte and Asuka are your two best women's wrestlers, especially with Becky not being around. So those two really do rule the marquee, at least in terms of the main roster. So, hey, you've got to kind of protect them, and I thought it was fine. I really did. And also, I've got to say, the chemistry. Every time Charlotte and Asuka wrestle each other, it's gold. It really is. But what a shitty way to end Raw, if I'm being honest. I thought it was a bit boring. I did. Drew runs over MVP. Whoop-de-doo. Lana's at ringside. She seemed very amused by this as well, especially when he got Claymored. Drew McIntyre looked great. And then literally, Bobby Lashley jumps in, puts him in a full Nelson, and we go off the air. Halfway through commentary. It's almost like they kind of ran out of time and somebody was like, Lashley, get your ass in there. It was just a bit anticlimactic for me. Didn't really sit that well with me. Thought it was fine, just didn't feel like it was a main event worthy segment. Just felt like something else that could have opened the show, or maybe they could have, put this in the middle of the show, or it just adds some more to it, I like MVP as a manager. I think he adds something really good to Bobby Lashley, a lot more than Lana does. It's very evident from this segment. They don't really know what to do with Lana, and now they've got this kind of weird cuckold love triangle bullshit. I don't care. It's not my cup of tea. But overall, thought Raw was great. Really enjoyed it. Loved the use of so many different talents. I actually think Raw has been consistently really fucking good for weeks now. I really do. That's my strong opinion. And I'm not one of these people who's like, I prefer, I love watching Dynamite, for instance. But I'm not one of these people who thinks, because I love AEW Dynamite, I don't like WWE Raw. No, good wrestling is good wrestling. I thought this was a good wrestling show. Plenty of comedy, plenty of entertainment, plenty of good promos, and plenty of good wrestling. What more could you ask for from a WWE Raw? Especially when you're trying to fill 3 hours, which can be, at the best of times, quite tedious. So, full credit to him. Thought it was excellent. Really would like to know what you guys think as well. So, make sure that you like, subscribe. Obviously, hit the bell icon. That would be really cool. Be lovely if you guys were in the loop and got notifications on all of our content as soon as it drops. But most importantly, I'd love to know what you guys think of the current state of WWE, wrestling as a whole. What did you think of Raw? Leave a comment below. Let us know what you think. And also what you'd like to hear me talk about more on the YouTube channel. Because ultimately, what I love about WrestlePlug is the fact that it's interactive. And we try and give as much back to the fans as possible. So check us out, get in contact with us at WrestlePlug across all social media, and we've also got a wonderful website, WrestlePlug.com. You can check out loads of content on there, including the regular podcasts that we drop. All our podcasts are available on there, all 438 of them, so check them out. And there's plenty more coming too in terms of interviews. But from myself, Aeron X, thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you very soon for more nonsense from the WrestlePlug.